Thank you everyone for hopping on today's call, Business Community Focus Group meeting. My name is Brenda with Neighborhood Services. Today we'll be doing a focus group just a little bit differently, and that we'll do a short presentation, open it up for a Q&A, and then we will ask you some focused questions in regards to the elements. First, Ambika will be presenting. He's the main project planner on this project. And then after that, you'll hear from Robbie Aaron. So over to you, Ambika.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Good afternoon, everyone. Looks like it's a small group of people, but we're so glad you took time during the lunch and then joined us. We've been on the general plan roadshow for the last 1 year. So many of you have heard many things from many different angles. So we'll try to be very brief in this meeting. And in case there are any questions, we can always respond to it after the presentation. Like Brenda said, I'm Ambika Adhikari from Community Development Department, and I work very closely with Robbie Aaron, Jacob Payne, Brenda Clark, Sana Warner, Josh Rutherford, and a group of people. Today we'll cover what is a general plan, and how is Tempe Tomorrow's General Plan 2050 being developed? We're calling the General Plan 2050 as Tempe Tomorrow because it looks at the future. And what are some of the areas for your business group that might be of interest to you in the general plan? And what we've heard from the other people so far, and what are the next steps? So me and Robbie will be jointly making this presentation. Robbie will do the second part. Jacob? Yeah, so today there are basically three purposes. You'll hear the structure and the working of the general plan, the content and process, and then we'll hear from you what you have to say in terms of contributing to the general plan. And also we want to look at your comments on what you think of what we've heard so far from a number of people, maybe almost 1,500 or even 2,000 people that we've contacted, many different outreach events. Next one. Okay, so for this particular group, so that you can be mentally prepared, you might be interested, among the other things, some of the economic development areas like job redevelopment, cost of development, some of the land use areas, some of the circulation areas, and some of the general plan amendment criteria. This is a timeline that later on Robbie will go into a little more detail. It's hard to read, but basically it tells you that we began the process in February 2022, and the process will end in March 2024 with the election where the voters can vote into the general plan that hopefully will be adopted by the council by then. So Robbie will go into some of the details, but right now we're in the public input processes, and we are gathering the input from everyone that cares to give us. Okay, let's go to the next one, what the Tempe General Plan covers. So basically, a general plan is a high-level policy document that gives guidance to what we do in terms of the physical growth and development for the coming 30 years. It is an overarching policy document, but it does build on the community vision. We hear what people say, we hear what stakeholders say. They are the ones who eventually craft the plan. We only support and help and provide the technical expertise on that one. And there are many elements that I will go into a little more detail of, like land use, infrastructure, economic development. Those are the kind of areas that the general plan covers. Next one. So here is a visual that gives you one way to look at how general plan sits on top of many other plans that emanate from the general plan. Based on what the large level vision of the general plan is, there are infrastructure plan and master plans. There are high level policy plans like the character area plan. There are also implementation plans like the beach park master plan and redevelopment plans. And finally, there are implementation tools like the code, transit-oriented development, engineering standards, and so on. So general plan gives that high level vision to guide all these documents. Next one. Again, it is a high-level policy document, so it is not a specific plan. It's not zoning ordinance. It's not a master plan. It's not a capital improvement plan or the budget. The mandated elements, the general plan is required to be updated every 10 years by the state statute. There are several mandated elements depending on the size of the city. For us, there are something like 25 mandated elements, and here are some lists. What we do is we organize them into the chapter so that the document becomes like coherent. And every chapter has many different elements. For example, the land use and development chapter has land use, community development, neighborhood preservation and revitalization, redevelopment and housing element. And similarly, the other chapters have their own elements. But today, the economic development chapter is also quite relevant. Next one. Similarly, there are also other elements that the state statute requires. We organize them into the environment and conservation chapter, open space chapter, and public facilities chapter. And so anything with aesthetic is something that is required by the law. Those, even the nomenclatures are more or less fixed by the state statute. But as a forward-looking city, and as a city that really leads in sustainability and culture and art, we also add other optional elements that we can always add beyond what is minimally required by the law. So we have historic preservation element, economic development, pedestrian aviation, climate change and extreme heat, public and art and cultural amenities. These are some of the elements in the general plan that we will add as optional elements. Next one. Okay, so for again, like I mentioned, some of the chapters and headings that you might be interested in. Into a little more detail for what you might be interested in is the growth projection, job creation, redevelopment. I'm not reading the whole thing, but land use hubs, parking management. Those are the kind of things that today you probably just want to provide your input or maybe speak about. Next one. Okay, it is developed to comply with the legal requirements. And we basically base everything like it's all incremental based on the previous plan. The plan that we have right now is the 2040 general plan. We're building on that. And there is a council appointed commission. There is also a technical advisory group, which Robbie will talk a little more detail about. And then we go to many stakeholders like yourself and the communities and the city council. And we also consult with, eventually, the draft will be reviewed by the adjoining jurisdictions also. And we depend on the surveys, we depend on the specialized group like today we're meeting. And then we also have open houses and public meetings, which we already have quite a few. We'll have maybe one or two more. And then if there is a specialized event that if people want to invite us, we go there and talk about the general plan also. Next one. Okay, so that's basically this slide basically summarizes how we synthesize everything that we hear from different groups of people, including the council and the city commissions and boards. Okay, continuing on, there is a timeline that Robbie will talk a little more in detail later on. The council has to adopt, and then finally it goes to a vote in March 2024. So with that, I hand it to Robbie Aaron to talk about what we've heard from the people to date and what are the next steps. Robbie?
Thank you, Mpika. So, my name is Robbie Aaron. I'm going to review the public input to date and then seeking how we're going to continue to seek feedback throughout this process. So back last June, in July, we did a kickoff survey. The kickoff survey was just a quick 10-question survey that went out to the entire community, and it was 10 questions. We received 356 responses, and in that survey, people were able to rate preferences based on elements that we are mandated and other optional elements that we can include, and kind of we used it to gather the community's vision for the 2050 plan. And this is what was done on not just a ranking style question, but also open-ended aspirational questions. Next slide. After that, we took that input and we started working through what else we needed to input we need to gather. And our next event was a community workshop. And then we also had a survey, and that workshop was on October 26th. It was held at the Legoland Discovery Center. We brought in a consultant that did an activity that revolved around Lego and other found objects. And you can see in the picture, people have little models that they built on their tables. And the idea was to get people's vision of what Tempe would look like in the future, and also what they liked about Tempe currently, or one of their favorite memories of Tempe. Overall, we had 153 people and 115 survey responses. Next. We also held at the beginning of January a standard style public meeting that was on January 19th at the Tempe History Museum. And we also had a Zoom meeting that day. We had a total of 43 attendees, and not quite as well attended as the Legoland event, but we also had a survey that was open from January 19th through February 5th, and that had 420 responses. Throughout that January 19th to February 5th timeframe, we also attended a lot of arts in the parks. So there was 8 meetings that we attended as part of that as well. Next slide. Out of all of this community member feedback, we have seen a lot of common themes from access and proximity within walking and biking, to affordable housing, to walkability, to shade, preservation, public art, and all of these things are things that we are taking into consideration, and that we do plan to include somehow in the plan, although it might not be explicitly written the way we receive the feedback. We do work our hardest to include all of the input that we have received. Next slide. So see, these are some of the meeting images. You can see we've been to a variety of places, from movies in the parks to art, like I said, arts in the parks, Fan Con at the Tempe Library, to the Fall Festival at Escalante Community Center. So we're really doing our best to reach out to every corner of the city. As in Beacon Mission, we also have a community working group that's a council-appointed board commission. There's currently 17 members representing residents, businesses, professionals, and institutions. These people applied to be on the community working group back last summer, and then council, from the applications, mayor and council appointed members to the commission. It is a hybrid style meeting on the first Tuesday of each month. So you can attend either via Zoom, or it's at the Tempe Public Library and downstairs in one of the meeting rooms. If you wish to come and give some input, there is time, as it is a public meeting. We also have a technical advisory group. This is a group that has about 65 to 70 members. It's comprised of city staff, representatives from our boards and commissions that were appointed by each board and commission, and then our partner organizations such as DTA, ASU, and other organizations that we work with on a day-to-day basis throughout the city. They provide real detailed technical input on the plan, get down kind of more into the weeds about some of the things, and they meet on the first and third Tuesday of the month. Next steps. So upcoming outreach, we're currently doing focus group meetings. We had one last week. We have this one today. We'll also have a spring community meeting, which will be sometime likely toward the end of March. We'll also be at a lot of other kind of events that are already scheduled throughout the month of March. The spring community meeting will be a virtual option, and then there will be a survey that goes along with that. On April 27th, we are going to council work study session. And then after that, we'll be presenting our draft to various boards, commissions, and the draft will be released to the public officially in May, although it will also be released as part of the council work study session agenda. So here's staff contacts. Like I said, I'm Robbie Aaron, and Bika spoke before me. Jacob Payne has been advancing our slides for us. Thank you for that, Jacob. And then we also work really closely with Brenda, who spoke at the beginning, and Shauna Warner, who's they are in neighborhood services. So that being said, I think we're going to go back and Jacob, can you scroll back to the questions? And then Brenda, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Ambika and Jacob. Let's see, before we get started with the questions, I just want to open it up for a Q&A and also ask you if you can please type the name of your organization or company that you're with so that we can, we know most of you in here, but just in case if there's anyone that doesn't know each other, that will be a good source. Let's see. So opening that up, does anyone have any questions related to the presentation we just shared? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. Can we scroll down? I think it's slide 13. Is this? Yeah, here we go. All right, then I'm going to open it up to the targeted focus section of this related to these elements as part of the general plan. Can you share how or if your business works in these areas, or you might have any questions or ideas of how these areas are shaped in the future? And in a normal focus group, we would tap on or pick on certain individuals to kick it off, but I'm hoping that someone might want to step up here and be the first brave person. Okay. Well,
looks like everything was so clear.
You did so good that everything is answered. Okay, we'll not put anyone on the spot today, so definitely do not worry, but just give a few more seconds and allow anyone the opportunity to ask any questions or give any feedback.
So this is Kaylee Palmer. I guess I don't really have any input, just a question. Is there proposed changes to the amendment process? I see that those are listed at the bottom of the list. I was just curious if there's a proposed amendment to that, how those are handled.
I can answer that. At this very second, the answer is no. There is no proposed changes to the amendment process. We know that there's, different cities, jurisdictions across, the county and the state do things a little different. So we have in the past explored, is there a way we can make the amendment process a little more clear? But we don't have any proposals at this time to change our amendment process.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Kaylin. Good question. Okay.
Brenda, I just want to add to that. If you're out there and you don't have anything today, you can feel free to email us comments or questions at any time. So if something comes up, or if you just would rather email us your comments, that is okay too. Brenda just put the general plan email in the chat box, but it's pretty simple. It's 2050@tempe.gov. So
yeah,
and also there will be an opportunity for you to look at the draft plan sometime early in May. And when you have a document that will be publicized and some hard copies will also be available, you can look at the section that you're interested in and give us a comment then also. But in the meantime, like Robbie said, feel free to call us, send us an email, or contact us any other way.
Absolutely. And feel free to take a screenshot if you'd like of the elements, if you want to think about it for a little bit.
John Kane here. I was just curious, did I see something about gentrification? Is that going to be part of this? And how are you going to deal with that?
I can respond to that, John. Good to have you in the meeting. Yes, we'll talk a little bit about gentrification in the neighborhood preservation and stabilization component. But basically, general plan being in the very high level, it will mention that is something that we are aware And then when we have a redevelopment, there's also a redevelopment element. We would like to avoid gentrification when feasible, so that people have the first right of refusal to stay in a new place. And then also aging in place and multi-generational living is something that we really value in this plan. So there will be high-level policy guidelines that will encourage aging in place and multi-generational living so that gentrification is minimized. So that's the way that it is dealt with. As you know, general plan is in a very high level, but that's an excellent point. And this is something that has come up in the previous meetings also. This is what we're thinking. If you have any other thoughts, you can always let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks, Ambika. Okay, excellent. So it looks like we will go ahead and get this wrapped up and invite you to definitely reach out. We're happy to set up a short Zoom call like this. Happy to take phone calls or emails. So thank you so much for your time. We'll go ahead and end the recording, conclude the meeting.
Thanks, everyone.